Hello and welcome, everyone. I'm Trent Lobsher with the School District of Palm Beach County Department of Educational Technology, and I am so thrilled to be here with you today as we host an afternoon reading from Aimee Nezhukumatathil. Our visiting poet and author is here joining us today thanks to our partners at the Palm Beach Poetry Festival as part of their 18th annual festival happening this week. Founded in 2005, the Palm Beach Poetry Festival is a nonprofit organization dedicated to fostering the writing, reading, performance, and appreciation of poetry by presenting an annual festival and other poetry events in Palm Beach County, featuring America's finest poets. Their annual high school poetry competition takes place every December, and their poetry performance outreach project, started by Dr. Blaze Allen, has brought many world-renowned poets into our high schools over the last 17 years to inspire our students. More information about the Palm Beach Poetry Festival can be found on their website at palmbeachpoetryfestival.org. Now, speaking of world-renowned poets, today's honored speaker is Aimee Nezhukumatathil, the author of a book of nature essays, World of Wonders, in praise of fireflies, whale sharks, and other astonishments. And actually, to celebrate, I'm wearing my whale shark socks today. This fantastic work was named a finalist for the Kirkus Prize in Nonfiction, and she's also the author of 4 award-winning poetry collections, most recently Oceanic. Awards for her writing include fellowships from the Mississippi Arts Council, Mississippi Institute of Arts and Letters Award for Poetry, National Endowment of the Arts, and the Guggenheim Foundation. Her writing has appeared in New York Times Magazine, ESPN, and Best American Poetry. She is a professor of English and creative writing in the University of Mississippi's MFA program. Aimee, welcome. We are so honored to have you here today.
Hey everyone, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Trent. I'm so thrilled. My only sadness is that I wish I was with you all under the hot sun of Palm Beach, and I have many good memories of being there in past years as well. So thank you so much. Special shout out to the teachers who made this possible, to everybody at Palm Beach Poetry Festival who made this connection even happen between the high schoolers, not only in the Palm Beach area, but all across the country. Thanks so much to everybody tuning in all over the world. We're just gonna, we're in the middle of a pandemic, and something that's been comforting me and probably many of you in the audience here is poetry. So I just wanted to combine my 2 favorite things, poetry and food. And let's just have a great afternoon. We're going to be together for about 1 hour. I'm going to read some of my favorite food writing from other people, from other writers, as well as my own. And then I'm going to lead you through the beginning of how to write a food poem of your own as well. All right. And I think at the end, I'm going to squeeze in some time for questions from students as well. All right. So let me just start out. I'm going to start with a few poems of my own. And I wanted to talk about this particular fish. It is it's the most dangerous fish to eat in the world. It's also super delicious. And I wrote kind of a blues poem about it, and it's called the Fugu Soup Blues. And the Japanese have a proverb about this fish, and it goes, "Those who eat fugu soup are so stupid, but those who don't eat fugu soup are also stupid." So this is a poem of mine called The Fugu Soup Blues. Nothing good can come out of eating something named porcupine fish. It's like playing Russian roulette when you cook it. The pulse of toxin in its sweet little body can kill 30 men. But this is the most delicious of all fishes. The sweet meat almost sugared and the salty broth mix, and it's worth almost any death. Can you taste the pure poison hidden in the skin folds? Can you forget what you eat may kill you even as you wipe your mouth with the back of your hand? Consider the way the porcupine fish dies. It is the only fish that can close its eyes. When a cleaver comes near its head, it even winces. Sushi chefs complain of the noise it makes on the chopping block, like crying, even though fishermen always try to stitch its small mouth shut. the blinking. Don't we expect fish eyes to be dead black and dumb? You cannot stop this hunger. When something this good can kill you, every pinprick of white pain just adds more flavor. And when the waiter with a curvy smile asks if you want seconds, please, please, I beg of you, set down your spoons. Say yes, but also please. I wanted to ask, some of you I know are catching me on YouTube Live, and some of you have a way to kind of make comments or questions in the sides. So I'm so glad to see so many people are typing in where they're from. But a question I wanted to ask everybody, if you are able to chime in on the chat, can you tell me? I want to know what your favorite winter comfort food is. Your favorite winter comfort food. Like, I know it might be available, maybe we're depending on where you are year round, because you're in Florida for many of you. But what is something that you eat in the winter time that just makes you feel great, makes you feel at home, just cozy, that kind of thing? I will start off and I will just say just mac and cheese is my winter comfort food. And yeah, basically any pasta in winter is extra good. I love pasta always, but pasta in winter is so good. So if you can type in the chat, what is your favorite comfort food? I just want the chat to just explode with everybody's comfort meals right there. All right. I also like to bake so much, and and my husband teaches here with me in Mississippi. When we first got married, we lived in a house in Dunkirk, New York, and right next to it, there was the Chautauqua County, what do they call Arachnid Society or Appreciation Society. So basically, it was the county's headquarters of appreciating spiders, and um, it was just such a surreal, weird place to begin a marriage, to begin a relationship, kind of knowing that there was a house right next door that was just kind of filled with spiders. So there was always this weird creepiness going around. That same year, we had a couple other weird things that were happening in New York City. And I just kind of put everything into it. I wanted to show my husband I'm a good baker. I have a job. I bought my own house, but I still wanted to show love by baking him pastries and cakes and pies. And so this kind of comes out of that. And this is called baked goods. Flour on the floor makes my sandals slip, and I tumble into your arms. It's too hot to bake this morning, but blueberries begged me to fold them into moist muffins. Sticks of rhubarb plotted a whole pie. The windows are blown open, and a thick fruit tang sneaks through the wire screen and into the home of the scowly lady who lives next door. Yesterday, a man in New York City was rescued from his apartments that was filled with 1,000 rats. Something about his being angry because his pet python refused to eat. He just let the bloom of fur rise over the gnarly blue rug, rise over the coffee table, the kitchen countertops, and pip through each cabinet, snip at the stumpy paper bags of sugar and the cylinders of salt. Our kitchen is a riot of pots, wooden spoons, and melted butter. So be it. Maybe maybe all this baking will quiet the angry voices next door, if only for a brief whiff. I want our summers to always be like this, a kitchen wrecked with love, a table overflowing with baked goods, warming the already warm air. And after all the pots are stacked, all the goodies cooled, all the counters wiped clean, let us never, ever be rescued from this mess. And I'm going to switch gears just a little bit. I've been writing a lot of kind of food essays. I'm a contributing editor for this incredible magazine on nature called Orion. And I have a little column there on food, favorite little kind of ingredients of food. And The very first one I wrote for them was on chocolate. So it's very small. It's not exactly a poem, so forgive me. I'm going to read this, and then we're going to switch over to my favorite food poems from other people, and then we'll go right to the exercise. This is simply about chocolate, and it was written kind of in the beginning of the pandemic here. Chocolate. And it has an epigraph from Lucille Clifton, one of my favorite poets of all time, who says, "The plainest things, it seems to me, are filled with wonder." All right, let me adjust here. Some people are perfectly fine without it. Sorry, hang on 1 second. There we go. Some people are perfectly fine without it. My friend Ross jokes that he can go for months at a time and not even notice. I too felt like that about chocolate. That is, until the pandemic started. When schools and restaurants first shut down last year, my family stocked up on essentials as if planning for a hurricane or a tornado. When I ordered groceries online from our local supermarket, I threw in a couple travel sized bottles of hand sanitizer. It was all I could find in those frantic early days. And something called a Tony's Chocolonely chocolate bar, just because it made me happy. And I confess, seeing the word lonely on the bright red wrapper made me feel a little less lonesome. Now, things you can buy online made of chocolate: a camera, teapot, key, golf ball, a complete toolkit, a hammer, wrench, a saw, and pliers. You can buy food that looks like it was dipped in it: an orange, a piece of toast with egg and bacon on top, complete with a chocolate fork and knife. You can buy a box of Brussels sprouts shaped chocolates painted green. Also green, a chocolate Yoda. You could buy chocolate chess sets, a watch, handcuffs, a gun with chocolate bullets, a high heeled shoe, a rose, bunnies, a pair of lips, and for someone truly out of this world, you can buy a whole chocolate solar system of planets, minus Pluto, much to my chagrin. In Austin, Texas, I'm particularly fond of Madu chocolates, who source their cacao from the Tumaca region of Colombia and then roast, crack, winnow, grind, flavor, temper, and wrap all their chocolate bars by hand. My father says their masala chai dark chocolate reminds him of the chai he used to drink back home in Kerala. And this past summer, we lost my paternal grandmother, the greatest cook I've ever known. Doesn't everyone feel the same way of their grandmothers? And because of the travel restrictions, none of us were able to attend her funeral in India. We still haven't been able to go back to check out her little monument of where she is resting now. I won't pretend eating chocolate helped our grief across the ocean in any way, but I wonder about families like mine all over the planet, unmoored by so much separation these days. When we eat chocolate, our brains release dopamine as a way to activate pleasure and pleasurable feelings. And someone somewhere once imagined a whole planets of chocolates. Days it feels like perhaps we could all use a whole universe of chocolates. Maybe something to help our losses, big and small. Maybe just a few stars or a nebula for all the graduations, weddings, and births and funerals we've missed. Something to conjure up a taste of India right here in northern Mississippi. Go ahead, add another couple of bars of chocolate to your cart. All right, I'm gonna pause here. And yeah, I'm going to switch over a little bit now to favorite food poems from others. And it's so hard. There's books and books and books of food poems. People love to write about food. So when I say these are my favorite about 2 weeks ago when I put together this handout. I could really fill an entire book of favorite food poems. These just jumped out at me right there. And I think maybe the first one, just because I missed that late summertime, we're going to start out with Blackberry Eating by Galway Cannell. So those of you who are playing along at home, I think there's a a handout somewhere that teachers got. But if you can turn to Blackberry Eating by Galway Cannell, I think it'll be up on the screen in a little bit here. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. This makes me caution because this, if you are a Blackberry fan, this will make you want to rewind back to September those days. Blackberry Eating by Galway Cannell. I love to go out in late September among the fat, overripe, icy black blackberries to eat blackberries for breakfast, the stalks very prickly, a penalty that they earn for knowing the black art of blackberry making. And as I stand among them, lifting the stalks to my mouth, the ripest berries fall almost unbidden to my tongue, as words sometimes do. Certain peculiar words like strengths and squinched, many lettered, on-syllabled lumps, which I squeeze, squinch open, and splurge well into the silent, startled, icy black language of blackberry eating in late September. I miss blackberries, picking them off. Actually in early summer, but late September is a special kind of sweetness too. This one has a very different tone. And for the students out there, I wanted to ask, I miss being in classrooms with people. But this one I'm going to read, it's an ode, which is kind of like a celebration poem, a poem of praise that is particular to a certain object. In this case, it's to something called pepper vinegar. Some of you know what this is. Some of you have it in your refrigerator. If you don't, it's a condiment. But as I'm reading this out loud, I want you to kind of be listening really close to this poem by Kevin Young and listen for the words that kind of reveal clues about how the speaker of this poem is feeling not about pepper vinegar per se, but maybe about a particular, how shall I say, a particular relationship in the speaker's life. So, oftentimes we do that. I did this as a teenager. I still do it. What am I talking about? I'll be talking about favorite sweatshirt, and really, really just the descriptions of the sweatshirt really resemble my best friend. And really, it turns out when I read back what I wrote about this sweatshirt, for example, I realized, oh gosh, I'm missing my best friend who is in Western New York right now and going through some hard things. But I didn't set out to write about my best friend. I was wanting to write about a sweatshirt, that kind of thing. So here, this is going to be something about pepper vinegar. And I want you to kind of guess what else might be going on in the speaker's life. Okay, so what I love about poetry is that it serves as a window, not just for what is being described, but for a larger world, a larger way to see into feelings that maybe not have been clearly expressed yet. All right, Ode to Pepper Vinegar by Kevin Young. You sat in the tomb of our family fridge for years without fail. You were all I wanted, covering my greens, satisfaction I've since sought for years in restaurants which claimed soul, but neither knew you nor your vinegar prayer. Baby brother of bitterness, soothsayer, you taught me the difference between loss and holding on. Next to the neon of the maraschino cherries, you floated and stayed constant as a flame on an unknown soldier's grave. I never did know how you got here, you just were. Adrift in your mason jar, you were a briny bit of where we came from, rusty lid awaiting our touch and tongue. You were faith in the everyday, not rare as the sugar cane my grandparents set north come Christmas, drained sweet and dry, delicious, gone by New Year's. No, you were nearer, familiar, the thump-thump of an upright bass, or the brass of a funeral band bringing us home. So I wondered if we can talk again about just the language used to describe pepper vinegar. What else, given my analogy of like describing a favorite sweatshirt, and then I realized, oh gosh, the way I'm talking about it's always there for me, ready to wrap its arms around me. I realized I'm actually talking about my best friend, I'm talking about the sweatshirt, but really the under kind of the current underneath, the subtext is I'm missing my best friend. Does anyone have any guesses, knowing some of the words here in this poem? Tomb, family, claimed soul. Let me see. I never did know how you got here. You just were in my life, that kind of thing. Um, Gone by New Year's, the brass band of a funeral band bringing home. What does that conjure up for you? Seems like we're not talking about pepper vinegar anymore. Anyone in the comments? Any guesses of what else might be going on in the speaker's life? Ideas on that? Yeah, a death of a loved one, right? I mean, it's New Orleans. I love that. Death of an older family member. Spot on, spot on. Yeah, I mean, it very much sounds like there's a. I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't call my refrigerator a tomb. So yeah, someone died. Ashley Jean, absolutely, absolutely. And what I love about food poems is that it often gets you thinking about kind of larger pictures in life. Like, yes, you could talk about cake and pie and your sweet tooth and pepper vinegar, but it also gives you language and a vocabulary for things that you haven't been able to write about directly, that kind of thing. So I wanted to read just one more poem, and then we're going to get into the exercise. And this is by, Kevin Young's poem mentions maraschino cherries. And because we're here, brought here together by Palm Beach Poetry Festival, I wanted to honor Thomas Lux, who was such a great supporter. He's no longer with us. I studied him when I was in grad school. He was such a great teacher of poetry. He was a great supporter of Palm Beach. One of my favorite poems to teach is a poem, again, about a refrigerator, but this is going to be the kind of jumping off point of our exercise here. The second question I wanted to ask you is if you have access to YouTube, or if you have something that you can type in for comments, I want you to be picturing your family refrigerator, whatever that means to you. Some of you are joining in from college. What is inside your family refrigerator? And if you can, this is maybe a little TMI. In the comments, can you type in what is the oldest, weirdest thing in your refrigerator right now? The oldest, weirdest thing, it could be maybe a weird bottle of salad dressing. It could be, I don't know, some unmentionable that you don't even know what it is in a Tupperware container, maybe. Um, I feel like I know a lot of first and second generation immigrant families had like things that were like Cool Whip containers or butter containers, but when you open it, it's not butter or Cool Whip. It's like part of an old chicken or something else. Maybe you have something wrapped in tinfoil, nobody knows what it is. Maybe there's like a mustard jar from like before you were born. Give me the oldest thing that you can imagine is in your refrigerator right now. All right, I love that someone wrote fermented soy paste, a box of baking soda. Leslie, I think that's mine too. Just baking soda, just it's supposed to keep it fresh, but I'm sure it's due for a change. Oh, someone has a chocolate guitar. Fantastic. I love that. That might be the coolest answer yet. What's the oldest thing in your refrigerator? Okay, I want you to be kind of thinking that. I'm going to give you a minute before I read, and then we're going to switch to an exercise. Don't embarrass your parents now, but try to remember what's in. Remember this is for public consumption. What's the oldest thing in your refrigerator? Go ahead and type that in. All right. I'm going to read you a poem from Thomas Lux, and it's simply called Refrigerator 1957. More like a vault. You pull the handle out, and on the shelves, not a lot. And what there is, a boiled potato in a bag, a chicken carcass under foil, looking dispirited, drained, mugged. This is not a place to go in hope or hunger. But just to the right of the middle door shelf, on fire, a lit from within red, heart red, sexual red, wet neon red, shining red in their liquid exotic, aloof, slumming in such company. A jar of maraschino cherries. 3/4 full, fiery globes like strippers at a church social. Maraschino cherries, maraschino, the only foreign word I knew. Not once did I see these cherries employed, not in a drink, nor on top of a glob of ice cream, or just pop one in your mouth. Not once. The same jar there through an entire childhood of dull dinners, balled meat, pocked peas, and, see above, boiled potatoes. Maybe they came over from the old country, family heirlooms, or were status symbols bought with a piece of a first paycheck from a sweatshop, which beat the pig farm in Bohemia handed down from my grandparents to my parents to be someday mine, then my child's. They were beautiful. And if I never ate one, it was because I knew it might be missed, or because I knew it would not be replaced, and because you do not eat that which rips your heart with joy. I love that. I can kind of picture Tom Lux's big booming voice. You have to imagine this big booming voice talking about, just waxing poetic about maraschino cherries. And if you get a chance to hear him read this through the magic of YouTube later, definitely do that. It's just such a great poem when you hear about him talk about potatoes and boiled meats, and contrasting that with the maraschinos, that kind of thing. I love that. All right. What I would like you to do real quick here, actually, let me pause here for just a little bit. So I love some of these answers here. Buttermilk. I'm not calling anybody out. I'm laughing because I know that there's unmentionables in my refrigerator. Pepper and aluminum foil. I love there's a Haitian marinade in there. Fantastic. Sun-dried tomatoes. Nobody knows what to do with. Good, good. I love that. Oh, there's a bottle of holy water. Fantastic. What I would like you to do in a notebook, if you have a piece of paper with you, just real quick, I want you to kind of be picturing not your current refrigerator right now, but say picture your refrigerator from ages 5 to 16. Okay, that's kind of a big room. And some of you are about 16 years old. But picture your childhood, like as early of a refrigerator as you can remember. I said 5 because maybe people don't remember earlier than 5 inside their refrigerator. Picture a childhood refrigerator. Okay, some of you, this is current right now. What I would like you to do is to name maybe the most exciting thing that's in there in your notebook on a piece of paper, like the thing that brings you joy. Going back to the end of that poem with the maraschino cherries, we do not take that which rips us with joy. So I want to ask you, what rips you with joy from your refrigerator, from your childhood refrigerator? What's the thing, like when you open the door, it's like, ooh, there's a stack of, I don't know, maybe there's a stack of like some yummy cheese that you just loved so much. Or maybe there's like a jug of chocolate milk in there. What was something that just made you so happy to see? Maybe you were a giant, I don't know, like maybe you love ketchup. Maybe you just saw this giant family-sized bottle of ketchup. It just comforted you, whatever. Give me something in your childhood refrigerator that makes your heart just expand with joy. Okay. Can you write about it just margin to margin, just pure description? Okay. Not what it makes you think of, anything like that, just pure description. Do that for about maybe 5 minutes, not even 5 minutes. I'll do maybe 4 minutes and then check in with you. So, write about something that gives you so much joy from your childhood refrigerator. Maybe it was just like, I don't know, maybe your parents had a slice of pie always, or like a leftover banana nut muffin. Maybe you had store bought cookies that were just stored in the refrigerator somehow. Maybe there was just you had oodles of fruit all the time. Maybe you were just happy to have like uh, pop in there. It doesn't have to be healthy. No judgment. I won't judge. That kind of thing. Maybe you're just thrilled to have a can of Coke in there once in a while. Name brand Coke, um, not grocery store brand. Maybe that was an exciting day for you. That kind of thing. All right. So 5 minutes, just pure description. Okay. So think about the smell of it, the look of it, the size of it. Um, if you can imagine touching it, what does it feel like besides cold? Give me pure description for about 5 minutes. All right, I'm gonna do that too. And if you feel brave enough, give me a couple sentences in the comments as well. But really, this is just to write down in a notebook. 2 more minutes, folks. I know some of you were scrambling to get paper with you. 2 more minutes. Just pure description. Describe it. 'All right, folks. Even if you're not completely in the spot, you want to keep going about this item in your childhood refrigerator that brings you so much joy, that rips you with joy. Um, can we get a couple volunteers to type them in the chat? I want to see like what do you remember from your childhood that makes you I love this cold cookies and spaghetti. Okay. All right. Is that cold spaghetti too? I love it. I love it. That's so great. Thank you, Miss Murphy. Cold spaghetti. Okay, good. Like I said, no judgment here. It doesn't have to be healthy. It doesn't have to be conventional. It could be whatever rips your heart with joy, as Thomas Luck says. Let me see. Other comments here. Um, what is something that you remember that brings you oh, the Andes candies. Oh my goodness, that's something that I had not seen in a while. Andes candies, how funny. And it's a grandmother's refrigerator. That very much speaks to what's in a grandmother's refrigerator from a certain time. Good. Whipped cream, leftover lasagna. Yeah, good, good. I love the variation of this. Partially set fruit cocktail jello. I love that. Good, good. Such a wide array of answers here. And hopefully you found yourself, when I do this exercise in a classroom of teenagers, oftentimes as they're writing, nobody even kind of notices it. But I just, and I don't say anything because I don't want to interrupt, but I find that when you're writing about food in particular, like a favorite food, I look around at the students' faces and they're smiling. They don't even realize they're smiling, but they're smiling because of that. That those kind of fond memories. Korean plum juice, chewy plum bits. Oh, that sounds fantastic. I love that. With from again grandmother. So good, so good. Um, Love it so much. What I want to pivot to just a little bit in terms of like just again why food poems. I mentioned at the beginning of this that we're in a pandemic and I wanted to bring comfort and joy to people with the hour that I have, and food for me is always that kind of no fail way to make myself get out of a writing funk, but also to get students excited about writing things that they've experienced or want to relive again a little bit on the page. And I wonder when I was kind of brainstorming like why poetry or why food poetry in particular. um and Kevin Young, he writes such great food poems. He said in an interview um to the question like what is it about food that brings so many people together and connects people, makes people feel connected even when we're separated, especially during a pandemic. And he said, I think poems return us to that place of mud and dirt and earth and sun and rain. And that's where food comes from. So there's this kind of common link that even if you're reading about a food you've never heard before, you kind of can understand a little bit, because the descriptions all stem from the same elements. It's elemental, food and the earth, and even just the idea of buying a bag of chips. We all know that sound of a crunchy, crunchy, bag being laid on the grocery table, a grocery belt, things like that. So when you're writing a food poem, you don't want to just write food, food, food just for the sake of it. I want to see if your diction, and what I mean by diction, it's the choice of words. So I want to see if the choice of your words can influence the mood or tone of the poem. So, for example, just like in the Ode to Pepper Vinegar poem, where there was a lot of kind of death diction imagery, like tomb and funeral, brass band, things like that, you get a different vibe than if you were to write a poem about pepper vinegar and talk about a parade, confetti, balloons, fireworks, that kind of thing. You get a very different mood of the poem, right? So another way to think about it is there's something called Queen Anne's lace, which some of you know is like a weed that you see on highways, things like that. It's also known as wild carrot. So it's very different when you say something like, my horse chomped on wild carrot. It's very different than saying, the majestic animal nibbled Queen Anne's lace right out of my fingertips. You know what I mean? It's a very different tone change. So the choices of your words are huge when it comes to creating a tone or a mood, especially when it comes to food poetry. What I would like you to do, and let me check on the time. What I would like you to do, not for very long, because this is designed, I want you to be able to take this kernel of a food poem and then write it longer later after YouTube is done. Is I want you to think of the most favorite meal you've ever had. The most favorite meal you've ever had. Like brainstorm in your notebook on a piece of paper. What were the circumstances? Like number one, where were you? First of all, what is the food? Number two, where were you? Give me a location. And see if you can recall the smells of the food. If you were alone, if you were with people, give me kind of like a look around the room and then onto your table. Just give me, again, that pure description. And don't worry about line breaks for now. Just write margin to margin, kind of as fast as you can, all the details of your favorite meal. And if you're one of those people like me who sometimes stumbles over titles, I'm giving you a title right now. So it would be the food that you choose, the meal that you choose in, and then your location. So, for example, it would be like pizza in Niagara Falls. That's not my favorite meal ever, but it can be, but I want, that's your title, pizza in Niagara Falls. So give me your food in and then a location. And if that location is grandpa's backyard, that's fine. It does not need to be some extraordinary far-flung place. It could be chocolate chip cookies at the kitchen table, that kind of thing. But if I would just want you to think of your most, we talked about something that rips your heart out with joy. Rips your heart with joy. Give me your favorite meal that rips your heart with joy. Okay, I just want a full description of it. Pizza in Niagara Falls. That would be the title if I was writing this poem right now. Okay. See what happens if you can just go margin to margin with that. And I guess I just wanted to say just one little bit before I give you some time there. I'm going to give you again another, I don't know, 5 minutes because I want to give some time to questions and stuff like that. Maybe 10 minutes I'll give you. 7. How about that? Is I want to know what else is around. Don't just describe the meal, but give me the furniture. Give me like the shape of the trees or name the trees if you were eating outside. Describe your most favorite meal in excruciating detail, taking nothing for granted. Just assume like the reader has never had a specific pie, for example, if you're writing about pie. Um, what is the weather like? Do you remember the time of day? Don't just let this meal float around in outer space. Like ground us with a location, ground us with like a room, a place outside, a mountainside, right by the edge of a creek, whatever it is. But don't let us be floating around. I find like when poems don't touch into people, they're just kind of floating around. We can't really see any location. So, for example, having a slice, recalling a birthday cake at age 5 in 1995 is very different than remembering a slice of birthday cake yesterday, for example. All right. So let the tone, let the word choice also influence your mood. It doesn't have to be a happy mood either. So, all right. Let me give you a good 7 minutes to recall your favorite meal ever. And we'll start writing in block letters on the top of the page. Food, like blank, in blank, and give me your location. Okay, so pizza in Niagara Falls, for example. All right, let's see what happens, see what you can do, how detailed you can get in about 7 minutes. All right. I'm going to be doing the free write too. Give me all the details of your favorite meal. Where were we? What does it smell like? What does it taste like? What did you have as a beverage, if any? Um, if you can recall, what were you wearing? What was the weather like? All those details. All right, folks, I know that's so short, but if you can at least find a place where you can pause, and if you are willing, look over what you wrote. And if you can type what surprised you, like from your memory, what jolted you out of your reverie, what surprised you when you remembered it? If you could write that down in the chats, that would be great. Maybe it was a specific detail or a dress your grandmother wore or something like that. Or what was the meal? Maybe if you could just give us your title of the poem draft. Um, Moon pies in Memphis, tacos in Tuscaloosa. Whatever location and meal that it was. I'd love to see the variety. If you can type that in the chat. Find a place to pause. I love that, Sarah. Lettuce cups in Georgia. And what a great, and notice too, like these are terrific just titles that if I saw these in a table of contents, I'd want to see what's going on with lettuce cups in Georgia, that kind of thing. I would love to just dive right in there. What else? Other people's titles, or maybe there was a detail that you wanted to share. Steak and, oh, I love that. Is it Le Cellier? Le Cellier? I should know that. Um, I love that though. Like it's just a beautiful name of a location too. And then we have steak. White truffle pasta in Palm Beach. Oh, I love that. So great. Um, yeah, that's so great. Thank you so much, tech team, for putting that prompt up there. I love that tacos and Greece. Yes. Shout out to my husband who is evidently watching. New Year's Korean New Year's dumpling soup and Seoul. Oh my goodness, that sounds divine in so many ways, Mindy. Fantastic. Lobster rolls on Gossman's Dock, Montauk Point. I love these details. Keep coming in with these titles or these like little memories here. And again, these do not, some of these seem like really far away, like Korea, Greece, that kind of thing. They could absolutely be in a parking lot. They could absolutely be in someone's backyard. So what I love about it is just the specificity will be like an extension of a hand to a friend. If you are saying like, I had this good meal and it was when I was 9, it was so good, it was delicious, man, my stomach was full. Literally nobody is going to connect with that. But even say, for example, I've never been to Korea. Um, if Mindy writes a poem detailing like what this dumpling soup tastes like, smells like, where we are, what the speaker is looking at, I'll feel like I'll have traveled a little bit. So what I love about food poetry is if you get it very detailed, if you write down all the minutia details, your reader will feel like they're right there or tasting it too. And the end result is that you get a little bit hungry. I know I'm really hungry here, just even hearing the mention of Blaze's lobster rolls on Gossman's Dock. I love that. Now suddenly that's all I'm thinking about now for the rest of my time here is lobster rolls, lobster rolls. How long it's been since I've had a good lobster roll. And that's what we want. We want our poems to reach out and kind of stretch across the miles, stretch across time to get us back to a place where we can communicate with each other, where we can share and feel a little bit less alone. And isn't that what we need more than ever, especially during a pandemic? So shout out to all the high school students who are home because of COVID closings in particular. I'm coming to you live from Oxford, Mississippi. Our entire school district is closed because the amount of people who've tested positive in the 1 week that we've been at school. So shout out to the parents and to the teachers in particular. My heart is with you. We start back at the campus next week. To all the educators and the students out there, I see you, I hear you. Thank you so much for joining us here. I do want to say, like, we have a little bit of time left, and I want to be respectful of time. Does any, and just from the teachers that are tuning in with their classes, are there any questions from the students that you might want to share? Something about just like how else to start a poem, anything that I could answer really quick. We only have a few more minutes here, so I'll only be able to tackle a little bit. But while we're waiting for questions, I'm hearing from the Silver Nightingale, waffles in the kitchen made by beloved late father during my childhood and continuing for decades in several different homes. Oh my goodness, I love that. I love that it's this square, it's this waffle that kind of travels with you in different homes now, even through the years as well. I love that specificity. So good. That's what I'm looking for. So even if you've never had a waffle, if you've never even had a dad, maybe you didn't have a great relationship with your dad, you kind of get a sense of what that would be like just from reading that description. What it would be like to have a dad who brings waffles to you, no matter what age you are. I love it. Good. All right, some questions here. Oh, Teresa wants to know, Miss Bierman wants to know, what was my favorite food and place? I had two. It was, it's not really, I feel a little sheepish because it's not my favorite necessarily. I kind of like the sound, and it was more of like a happy memory. So I actually did moon pies in Memphis. And if you don't know what a moon pie is, it's a ridiculous, I'm sure it's not good for you, kind of like two cakey materials with cream in the middle. Um, and The first time I ever had one was in Memphis, Tennessee. My family and we were out. It was the middle of summer. Nothing was open. We found, this sounds ridiculous, but we found moon pies at a, what is it, a Bass, what is it called? The Bass Pro Shops. And it was just a memory of a happy time in our family. So moon pies in Memphis is what I wrote about. How do I start and end a poem? That's so good, Miss Golden. And I teach like whole semesters on how we do that. So what I could say in a nutshell, though, when I'm looking at poems, when I'm trying to get kids to start, is I would start small. And what I mean by small is start with something concrete, something that kind of will hook in the reader. It doesn't have to be like, boom, here's a dead body, or boom, someone's falling off a cliff. But start with something specific, like maybe start with the sound of bells from church, or maybe you start with the sound of the ocean bashing itself on the rocks. And then kind of see where that image goes. I like to write towards that image and then away from that image. So if I'm starting with rocks by the ocean, by the time I get to the end, I want to feel like I have traveled a little bit. Even if I'm still in the ocean, I want to feel like emotionally I have traveled. So maybe I'll think of a first crush, or maybe a time my mom embarrassed me, or a happy time with my toddler children or something like that. But I'll want to feel different when I get to the end of a poem. So that's how I kind of know when I'm a little bit done with the poem. But I like to start with something concrete, not something like freedom. And then it's really hard to kind of connect when you spout off with these kind of intangible things you can't touch, smell, or taste. So if you start with a specific smell, a taste, any of the five senses, I feel like you're already on a springboard in traveling by the time you get to the end of a poem. So I feel like you'll know when you're ending a poem right when you feel surprised. Like, that's why I asked, what is the thing that surprised you when you were writing? I want you to feel a surprise. Robert Frost says, no surprise for the writer, no surprise for the reader. And if I'm just writing and no surprise, no surprise, no surprise, that's how I know I'm just journaling. Nobody should really be seeing it. But I want to feel like I'm surprised when I'm reading other people's poems. And so I try to surprise myself as well. Yeah. But oh, good. Someone else has heard of moon pies. Good. I said that once to somebody else, and they're like, "What is a moon pie?" Um, and oh, waffles every Sunday. I love that detail. Fantastic. Well, you all, thank you so much. This was so great. I know this is like kind of like a poetry lesson in a nutshell, but I hope that feel free to replay this little 45-minute block or this hour-long block for you when you get stuck. For me, I think when you get stuck, even if you don't consider yourself a poet, if you just start writing your recollections about food, I feel like that's where the magic happens. It's a way to connect and feel a little bit less lonely when you are recalling moments of abundance and also maybe times when you didn't have a whole lot on the table. And what was that like as well? Like, I don't want to say that, oh, everything's all fine and dandy and everybody's life was great in childhood. But I think there's something with food that sets us on a plane where we can bri- make the bridge to communicate with one another and not feel so isolated. So thank you so, so much. Dig into your food writing, dig into those memories that I hope conjured up. Open up your refrigerator for inspiration and see what happens.
Aimee, thanks so much for all of that. I was trying to think of a really good food analogy. So that buffet of tips and literature, I don't know. It's
There's a little bit. There's some of my poems, some of other people's poems, an essay, and then a little bit of a couple exercises for you. So look,
yeah.
it's perfect.
That was fantastic. There's so much to take home. We got a couple of writing exercises out of it, and just a great jumping off point for exploring food poetry for students that aren't already there. But high schoolers, middle schoolers love food. So it's a fantastic content. So I'm looking forward to hearing all the feedback from our teachers today and students. And as Aimee said, just a reminder that a recording of this stream is available as soon as the stream ends. So if you wanted to replay it for any of your other classes, you can feel free to do so. So on behalf of all of us on the School District of Palm Beach County Ed Tech team and our friends at the Palm Beach Poetry Festival, thank you so much. And a very special thank you, of course, to Aimee for stopping by. We had such a great time with you. Hopefully you'll come back and see us again.
Excellent. Thank you, Trent. And Trent, I have one question.
Mhm.
If teachers wanted a handout of the poems that I referenced here, as well as mine, are you going to make that available?
Absolutely. They can get it from the YouTube description here. We'll put a link up on our EdTech training team website, or they can email me directly and I'll send it right to them.
Great. Oh, thank you. In the chat, someone mentioned that they know what I'm talking about the Memphis Moon Pies and the Bass Pro Shop Hotel. Good. I know it sounds crazy when I say it's a pyramid and there was moon pies. Thank you. Thank you for validating me, Matthew. Great. Thank you, Trent. Thank you, everybody. And to teachers and students who are all just in this together with us, thank you so much for joining me, and continue to dig into food writing. Take care.
All right, thanks all.
Bye-bye.